Our Dr. Kinda, good job. Yeah.
Hey, I don't want this noise.
It's ready. So number one, ask her to please send that to us. That paper now to conferences at LS or to Jojo or to you. Just give her an email. Come and send us. You can send it to my Jojo. Jojo at OAU. Jojo at OAU.
Mr. Oshu, and the man that we want to start. So we want to listen to the keynote presentation by Abby and the director general of NCEH. Somebody will be speaking on our behalf. Pandemic solution, food, human health, and the environment, taking consideration. The location of the National Conference on Environment and Health. So, are we ready? We take a position. Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Protocol. I'm here to read the citation of Dr. Agnes Yemisi Atagram, the DG CEO, National Biosafety Management Agency, NBME Abuja. Agnes Yemisi Atagram, proudly Lagosian, holds a doctorate in food and industrial microbiology from the prestigious University of Ibadan 2004, a master's degree from the University of Benin, 1987, and a first degree from the University of Lagos, 1983. She had her primary education at St. Mary Private School in Broad Street, Lagos, from 1967 to 1973, and her high school education at the Mary Old Grammar School, Ebute Metta, Lagos, between 1973 to 1978. Dr. Asagra began her career at the Federal Institute of Industrial Research, Oshodi, Lagos, Nigeria, on January 4, 1988, as a research officer 1. She particularly excelled in fermentation technology and contributed significantly to advancements in antibiotic and food fermentation. She steadily rose to become the DG CEO of that institute. In May 2003, she was appointed the DG CEO of the National Biosafety Management Agency, NBMA. This marked a significant milestone in her career and that of the agency. Under Dr. Agnes Yemisi Asagra's leadership, NBMA has witnessed significant advancements in various areas, including policy development, operational efficiency, and stakeholder engagement. She has implemented innovative strategies to streamline processes, enhance service delivery, and foster a culture of collaboration and accountability within the agency. One of the key achievements attributed to that internal training, SIT, which has had a transformative impact on the agency's operations and its ability to fulfill its mandate. Through Dr. Yemisi Agnes Asagra's strategic vision and effective management, the initiative has not only improved the agency's performance, but has also garnered recognition for its positive outcomes and contributions to the nation's biosafety and biosecurity. Moreover, Dr. Yemisi Asagra has been instrumental in fostering strong partnerships with external stakeholders, including government entities, non-profit organizations, and the private sector, This collaborative approach has led to the development of impactful initiatives and projects that have addressed critical issues and delivered tangible benefits to the agency in particular and the public in general. The DCCO has also been a part of transparency and accountability, implementing measures to ensure that the agency operates to the highest ethical standards and remains responsive to the needs of the citizens it serves. Dr. Yemisi Agnes Asabra, unwavering commitment to integrity and good governance, has earned the agency a reputation for reliability and trustworthiness. Furthermore, we have been very responsible with professional development and empowerment of the agency's employees, recognizing the importance of investing in human capital to achieve sustainable success. Through mentorship programs, skills enhancement initiatives, and environment, she is cultivating a dedicated and motivated workforce that is aligned with the agency's mission and values. In recognition of Dr. Agnes EMC Asabra's outstanding leadership and achievements so far, she has been receiving accolades and awards for its impactful contributions to national development and her dedication to excellence in public service. The agency's positive trajectory under Dr. EMC Agnes Asabra's stewardship serves as a testament to the transformative leadership and unwavering dedication that she has brought to the agency. Dr. Agnes EMC Asabra has exemplified the quality of a visionary leader, driving positive change, fostering collaboration, and achieving remarkable outcomes within NCEH. Her unassuming leadership and tremendous achievements within her short time in office stand as a testament to the profound impact that effective leadership can have on the success and reputation of a government establishment. Part of our future aspiration is to contribute to research and development for Nigeria, especially around indigenous technologies, thereby reducing the country's dependence on imported technology. The Living Science Foundation is honored to have Dr. Agnes EMC Asabra present a keynote at the 9th National Conference on Environment and Health. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Mrs. Agnes EMC Asabra.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please, can you hear me?
Already. Yeah, I can hear you, but the technical people. Hello, can you hear? She's speaking. Just a minute.
Okay, sir.
Please, can you? How do you do it? Please, can you speak so we can check?
Okay, good afternoon, Dr. Joshua.
Good afternoon.
Sir, can I go ahead?
Please, just a minute, please.
All right, sir.
We are still filming with the
Okay, that's fine,
technical.
sir.
Or should we pick a mic here for it will be okay. Olofe, what can we do? Can you use that? Don't do. Thank you, sir. That she can start. I can't tell her. No, it's not. It's not. Hello. I don't use
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please permit me to stand on the existing protocol. My name is Miracle Ngozi. I'm a Principal Scientific Officer with the National Biosafety Management Agency. And this afternoon, I'll be making this presentation on behalf of my Director General CEO, Dr. Agnes Yemisi Asagwa. Thank you.
Okay.
So for the presentation, we'll briefly look at GMOs, their applications, their concerns, what measures do we consider as a regulatory body, and then I'll be taking us through the NBMA regulatory framework. NBMA stands for the National Biosafety Management Agency. I'll be taking us through our regulatory framework, and then that'll be the end of the presentation. Now, what are GMOs? GMOs is an acronym that stands for genetically modified organisms. They can also be called transgenic organisms or living modified organisms as seen in the Catena Protocol on Biosafety 2000, or sometimes they can also be called genetically engineered organisms. When we talk about organisms, we're talking about plants, we're talking about animals, we're talking about microorganisms as well. Now, organisms generally can be, the genetic makeup of organisms can be altered in ways that do not occur naturally. Now, these organisms that can be altered in ways that naturally does not happen are what we refer to as GMOs. That means genes from unrelated species can be moved into other unrelated organisms. And this can be done using genetic engineering, in vitro techniques, and even more recently, we have advanced biotechnology such as the CRISPR-Cas9, which is a tool used to edit a genome, or it can also be seen in the context of gene drives as well. Even the use of synthetic biology. These are all current techniques that can also be used to alter organisms. And the resulting product is what we call GMOs. Now, these organisms can be modified for different purposes. That means biotechnologists can actually modify these organisms, for enhanced traits such as resistance to pests and diseases, traits such as tolerance to abiotic stressors, such as maybe drought, salinity, and what have you. And there are notable crops that have been notable GMOs, but I'll be making more reference to GMO crops because these are frequently cited, types of GMO that is known globally. So there are notable GMO crops commercially that have been, commercialized. That means they are in the market. And so when you check the ISA website, you can actually get a comprehensive list of some of these GMOs and the crops and the traits that they have been modified for. So we have maize, we have soybean, we have BT cotton, we have canola, we have sugarcane, and what have you. So these are just some examples of GM crops that have been commercialized globally. Now, the applications of transgenic solutions. We all know that there are perceived benefits of this technology, this transgenic technology. And the applications ranges from agriculture. In fact, let me just use the word. It spreads across the One Health sector. That is agri, human health, animal health, and the environment. Now, in agriculture, just as I said earlier, they have been used to develop crops that can resist different diseases and pests. It can be used to also enhance crop, for the nutritional profile. it can also be used to develop crops that can resist herbicide. So when you spray herbicide, the herbicide can just affect the weed, leave, the crop, so that it can improve or it can increase productivity. Now, for human and for animal health, it can be used to, enhance the nutritional profile of crops. Say, take for instance, if you need, say, vitamin A in yam, it can be used to, the biotechnology can be modern biotechnology can be used to enhance yam to have, a precursor, gene that can help you, help that yam produce vitamin A. Then for environment, it can also be used to enhance the capacity of existing microorganisms in the soil in that particular location, for them to be able to break down, pollutants, to even help in treating, waste water and what have you. So these are just some examples of the applications of the transgenic solution. But notwithstanding some of these passive benefits, there are concerns. There are concerns. And sometimes these concerns are divided into two major groups. Some fall under the human health concerns, and the other fall under environmental concerns. However, there are some other concerns, and so progress, we're going to look at them. Now, for the human health concerns, in as much as this technology is known to, help us improve our yield, help us improve the nutritional profile of our crops and what have you, there is this concern that, one, there's also possible exposure to new allergens and toxins in the process of modification. So when you modify this may give rise to new allergens that when humans or animals consume them, it triggers the immune system to respond to these proteins that naturally is not there, or an existing one that one is allergic to. Another fear again is the transfer of antibiotic-resistant genes to the blood flora. So during the development of GMOs, although this methodology is I would say is becoming obsolete, because right now developers are running away from using antibiotic selectable markers in the development of GMOs. And basically what they use this to do is just to select, the cells that have been transformed. However, it's not present in the final GMO product. But notwithstanding, this concern is germane. And so biotechnologists over time are now beginning to move away from the use of this method in developing GMOs. But that is still a concern, because what the concern of people is, what if we use an antibiotic that, what if we use an antibiotic that can now transfer, that can give rise to antibiotic resistance in the flora found in the gut? That means if that individual, if the animal comes down with that ailment, in treating that individual or that organism or that animal, there will not be treatment option. Whatever antibiotic you use for that, for treating that disease or whatever, will not work. That is a major concern. Then another concern is nutritional differences between GM crop and its conventional counterpart. So there is this belief that once modification of a crop has occurred, definitely there'll be changes in the parameters when there's a comparative studies done between the GM crop and the, conventional counterpart. That is for the human health concern. Now for the environmental concern, some of the concerns include ecological imbalances of the ecosystem. One of it is the non-target organism. What if, for instance, now I modify my crop, say against a particular pest, let's say a particular caterpillar? What if it begins to impact other the cross-pollinators, which are very important in our ecosystem? What if it begins to impact the soil microorganisms and what have you? This is a concern. Then invasiveness. What if you modify a crop and it begins to dominate a particular location and push away the native species? This is a major concern. Another concern is the issue of gene flow, giving rise to superweight. So take, for instance, I have a neighbor who cultivates GM, and I have another neighbor who does not cultivate GM, that maybe cultivates the conventional counterpart of my GM, say GM soybean. Yeah, maybe I cultivate GM soybean, and my neighbor cultivates the conventional, soybean. What if maybe the method of reproduction is through the pollination? What if there's a flow of my pollen from my GM to my neighbor's non-GM soybean? and then it gives rise to soybean that begins to, express certain traits that makes it super compared to it when it is in its domesticated state. That is a major concern. And then another concern is the loss of biodiversity. Remember, if this GM maybe begin to exhibit, let's say, for instance, traits of invasiveness, we're going to lose our natural, the natural crops or the natural plants that are found in that particular location. So these are just some of the concerns with respect to environmental, with respect to the environment. Now, there are other concerns. We have a socioeconomic concern. One of it is labeling. How are we sure that the developers of DGM will properly label so that consumers have the right of either buying that product when they see it on the shelf or not buying? How are we sure they're going to label so that we know what we are consuming? That is a major concern. Another one is the problem of ethics. How are we sure that in testing this GM, how are we not sure that these people are going to be using, for example, for the animal testing, are going to be using a number of animals that is unethical to kill or unethical to be used for testing, in conducting the animal testing? That is a problem. That's a challenge. Another concern is economic concern. Now, there's this belief that, oh, okay, in a system where this technology is allowed, there may be a disparity in productivity, in the sense that wealthier farmers can access this technology, can access these seeds, compared to those farmers in the rural area. So you see that just the wealthier farmers can benefit more from the technology, while the rural ones, subsistence farmers, will just be there. That's another issue of economic concern. Then another concern is that of the regulatory frameworks. So some people believe that, okay, all right, okay, we don't have an issue with the technology, but we're sure that the body that have been put in place to checkmate this technology, to checkmate the product of this technology, have adequate regulatory process in place. Are you sure they will conduct holistic risk assessment of these GMOs to ensure that the risk that it may pose does not affect humans, animals, and the environment? These are some concerns, and they are valid. It is normal for any technology, even for the phones that we use. It poses risk, and there will always be concern, not to talk more of what people will consume or what will go into our environment. So it is valid. And that is why GMO testing and regulation is a big deal. It is very important. Now, globally, GMOs are subject to rigorous testing and regulatory oversight prior to approval. GMOs are subject to rigorous testing and regulatory oversight prior to approval. Now, when we say testing, what do we mean by this? Now, the testing process for a GMO typically involves the years of the laboratory work, down to the greenhouse, the field testing, where the developers conduct confined field trials or multi-locational trials to evaluate its agronomic performance, nutritional composition, and its safety. Now, this is done by the developer. The testing process is done by the developer. However, in order for them to conduct this, they must get approval from the regulatory body in place. Therefore, regulations governing the testing and approval of GMOs must be given to developers. And regulations of GMO differ for different countries. For instance, Ghana also have a biosafety system in place, but that does not mean, we may have certain mutual regulations, but that does not mean that it is the same. Same thing for Kenya, same thing for South Africa. But notwithstanding, overall, the regulation of GMO involves two major things: comprehensive assessment and risk management plan. But in order for this to be conducted, what are the factors we put? What are the factors that we consider? Now, safety consideration refers to measures that we need to consider in order for us to assess the GMOs now in context, the GMOs, for the risk that it can pose to humans, for the risk that it can pose to animals, for the risk that it can pose to the environment. And what are some of these factors to be considered? Remember in the previous slide, we talked about comprehensive safety assessment as well as risk management plan. Now, under the safety assessment, the safety assessment is compulsory. Nigeria is a party to the Convention on Biological Diversity. And automatically, we have signed and ratified the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety. And as a party to that protocol, as a party, you must fulfill the obligations. You are bound by the provisions of the convention. And one thing that the protocol will always state is that safety assessment must be done. And in conducting that safety assessment, it is done on a case-by-case basis. So no two GMOs are the same. No two GMO events are the same. And therefore, in assessing the risk that it will pose, there are different factors that will be considered. So when conducting the risk assessment, one thing we look at is the molecular characterization. Remember that this is, for instance, now if a developer has worked on, say, cassava, remember that this is now different from the domesticated cassava species that we know. Therefore, we need to understand and know what is happening at the molecular level. We need to understand the genetic, are there genetic variations? Are there discrepancies in the biochemical makeup of that GMO? So one thing we always look at is the genetic stability of the event. We do not want, as regulators, we do not want a situation whereby the gene that have been introgressed into that crop can give rise to rearrangement, give rise to insertion, maybe in a coding region. We even need to know the genomic flanking sequence of the gene of insert, because this will also help in traceability. We really need to know the sites where these things have, been introgressed into. We need to know the number of copies, because sometimes when these copy numbers are not uniform across board, it can give rise to either underexpression of the protein, of the traits that you're interested in, or overexpression. So these are some of the things we look at when we are conducting our risk assessment review as regulators. Another aspect of risk assessment that we do as regulators is food safety assessment. Now, we need to understand what has happened with respect to the compositional analysis of that GMO. We look at the nutrient profile, especially for crops that have been enhanced for a particular nutrient. We have to look at the nutrient profile. If it has been enhanced for a particular nutrient, we also have to consider digestibility. We do not want a situation whereby an animal or any human consumes it, and then the consumed GMO just goes and sits. It's not digested within the stipulated number of minutes that it's meant to digest, and then constitutes another problem. We also look at toxicity. We have to ensure that proteins that have similar sequences with known toxins are not produced as a result of the modification. We also consider the analysis for allergenicity. We have to ensure that the GMO does not produce allergens with known homology, homology with known allergens. Then we also look at the issue of substantial equivalence. We do not want a situation whereby, especially for a crop that have not been modified, say for a particular nutrient, you need to show us data to show, you need to let us know or show us data that will indicate that, oh, this GM compared to its conventional counterparts do not have any significant difference except for the trait it has been modified for. So these are some of the things that we check for when we are conducting the food safety assessment. Another aspect of the risk assessment that we look at is the environmental risk assessment, which is also a very germane issue. The issue of gene flow. We do not want a situation whereby farmer A cultivates GM crops here, farmer B has a conventional counterpart of that GM crop, and then probably for the crops that need pollination in order for them to in order for them to undergo reproduction, there's a flow, and then it gives rise to what we cannot even explain. We do not want a situation whereby the GM crop that have been developed becomes invasive, becomes dominant, takes over the whole, takes over the whole the location where you have native species and what have you. And then we do not want any negative impact on organisms it was not targeted for. So take, for instance, if the maize have been modified against a particular insect, we do not want a situation whereby if bees come on that plant, or if other birds and other, animals maybe perch on that whatever, and maybe sucks the nectar or something, it begin to kill, those organisms, those insects located in that environment. As regulators, we don't want that. Then there are other ecological, other effects on ecology and dynamics that were also put into consideration. The potential effect of that impact of that GMO on the soil profile and microbes. We do not want a situation whereby where that GM crop have been cultivated begins to impact the soil microbe found in that particular location. Maybe microbes that play very important role in nitrogen fixation get affected then or get impacted as a result of cultivating that GM there. We do not want that as regulators. Or a situation whereby the GMO begins to express some weediness, begins to grow rapidly, whether the environment is conducive for it, but it just continues to grow there and what have you. As regulators, we do not want such issue or the issue of persistence. Now, for the risk management plans, there are plans we put in place to ensure that we try as much as possible to minimize the risk that these GMOs will pose to humans, animals, and the environment. Monitoring and traceability. Now, when I joined the meeting, I think I can't remember the name, but I think I heard him talking about enforcement and something like that. Yeah. So I would like to state that the NBMA conducts national surveillance. Now, this surveillance, we go to superstores, we go to random markets, we go to, sometimes we even visit some distribution companies, especially those that distribute, say, maize for the production of cornflakes and what have you. Now we do that. We collect we collect samples from these locations, and we have a GMO lab where we go to check. If number one, they are even GM. If they are GM, we have to also go ahead to screen if these are events that have been approved by the NBMA. Now, I may not say we have covered the whole of Nigeria due to funding, but we are trying our best. And so that is that about monitoring and traceability. We also ensure containment measures. So if a developer submits an application to conduct confined field trial for, even before the confined field trials, if in fact, as from the inception, if the developer picks up the form and say, oh, we want to develop this from the laboratory stage, we in fact, we're like the second eye. We try to follow up. And before you can even start anything in your laboratory, you need to get license, you need to get permits to go ahead and start, that's the development of that GMO. Before even progressing to a greenhouse or confined field trial, you still need to get approval for that. So you can't just develop something in your facility and then try to take it out for confined field. But we need to ensure that we come to the location where you intend to carry out the CFT. We need to ensure that it is not close to where people can access. We need to ensure that it is not a location where people can access randomly. We need to ensure that there are containment measures to confine that event. Because remember, we do not know the risk that event may pose. So we need to ensure that, first of all, you conduct your trials, but put it in compliance with all the containment and confinement measures as laid down by the NBMA. And then we don't work alone, we work with stakeholders. Stakeholders' involvement is something that we don't joke with. In conducting our risk assessment reviews and what have you, we bring in stakeholders, relevant stakeholders across different fields. We bring in agronomists, we bring in biotechnologists, we bring in plant breeders across different, we work with custom because these are people that are located at the borders. We work with National Seed Council, we work with a lot of stakeholders. So it is one thing that we don't joke with in ensuring risk management. Now, I'll be talking about our GMO approval process in the NBMA. Now, the NBMA is a regulatory body that the government have charged with to, provide regulatory framework, institutional and administrative mechanism to ensure that there's a safe application or the safe use of modern biotechnology in Nigeria. And this is in view to preventing any adverse effects on human health, animals, plants, and the environment. Now, the NBMA Act of 2015 actually established the Act, and the Act came into force in 2015. The NBMA Act domesticates the provision of the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. Now, Nigeria, as I said earlier, is a signatory to the CBD, that's the Convention of Biological Diversity. And so the Act domesticates some of the provisions that we are obliged to as a party to do. In 2019, the Act was further amended to include regulation of, new aspects of biotechnology, such as genome editing, gene drive, and synthetic biology. As we all know, this field of agricultural science is one field that is ever evolving. Formerly, we were talking about recombinant DNA, where you have to use agrobacterium to efficiency to transform a plant to give you a trait that you need. Right now, we're even moving, the field is even moving towards, the use of without isolating the gene of interest from a particular organism. It can be constructed, even using top-down or bottom-up approach. So this is how fast the technology is moving. And that's the reason why the agency have to be, we have to ensure that we are in line with some of this evolution and what have you. And then also the act was also amended to put in place measures to ensure biosecurity in Nigeria. As a result of this amendment, the agency, in collaboration with about 140 stakeholders, came up with the biosecurity policy and action plan. And so basically, this was done to ensure that there's strong collaboration, coordination, and communication between MDAs that have pocket mandates of biosecurity in their mandate. So this is just to bring stakeholders together, especially considering the pandemic that broke out and what have you. And the implementation strategy of the policy is the One Health approach. Remember, there's a nexus between human health, animal, plants, and the environment. So that is why the thematic area cuts across, the One Health sector. In order for the NBMA to effectively carry out its regulatory functions, there are several instruments that we use in carrying out our duties. We have the Biosafety Guidelines, there are lots of them. We have the Biosafety Act, we have the National GMO Detection and Analysis Laboratory, we have several manuals and forms. And then with respect to risk assessment, we have what we call the National Biosafety Committee and the National Biosafety Technical Subcommittee. Now, this is a committee that's always constituted by the DGCEO when an application is submitted. And these two committees is a cross-section of experts from different MDAs. We have people from the academia as well. We have people from the stakeholders that we work with, as well as other relevant stakeholders. And this committee helps in reviewing the risk assessment submitted by applicants. So this committee is a very important committee. So these are some of the MDAs that we collaborate with as an agency. Now, if a developer wants to develop a GMO, the first thing the developer will do is to go to our website and download the MBN, the application form, depending on what developer, if it's for development, if it's for CFT, if it's for import, there are different forms for different purposes. And then it is acknowledged by the NBMA. And then we conduct an internal review to ensure that all the information that have been asked to be provided is provided by the applicant. So that's just to check for completeness, basically. After that, there's a public view and display of the application in 3 national dailies. And the essence of this is to garner public input with respect to that event, that application that the developer has actually submitted. Now, after that have been done, the NBC is constituted, as well as the MBTS. They are constituted. And after its constitution, the risk assessment review is now scheduled. Now, during the risk assessment review, we have to put into consideration those safety considerations I talked about. That covers the environment, that covers molecular characterization, socioeconomic concern, and what have you. So during the process of the review, we need to ensure that the dossier that the applicant has submitted contains the general information that we need. That is the name of the applicant, contact address, postal address, as well as email and phone number. And then give us a background information of the crop that they want to modify. Now, after that, we'll now progress the molecular characterization. Then we expect the applicant to provide description of the traits that the applicant intends to introgress into the crop. So there you need to give us all the information concerning the genetic constructs. Give us information about the purpose of modification. The applicant must have conducted the risk assessment. You provide us the raw data. Provide us the raw data. We also request history of safe use. That is, if that event have been, approved in another country. List the countries where that event have been grown or where it has been used and the purpose it was used for. Then we also go ahead sorry about that. We also request for data for the environmental assessment. Give us information and data concerning if the event, if it is going to be weedy, if it's going to be invasive, does it have potential of gene flow, impact on negative or non-target organisms, and what have you. Now, I also want us to know that them providing us this information is not enough. On our own, we still analyze the data that have been provided to the agency prior to making decision. We also go ahead to conduct the food safety evaluation. We check for the toxicity, allergenicity, if it's the one that have been modified for enhanced food profile, we do the nutritional assessment and what have you, substantial equivalent. Then depending on the purpose of the application, we also go ahead to, to assess the ethical and sociocultural issues. And then if there are new information, we request that the applicant also, provide the information there. And then the recommendation of the MBC, MBTS is also made to the agency. Now, these are all the processes that are involved in the risk assessment review. So the MBC and the MBTS are always divided into two, and they conduct this risk assessment independently. It is at the end of the assessment that they come together and try to harmonize the recommendations that they have made concerning the application. Now, after they must have done that, they submit it. They advise the MBMA on the decision and submit the recommendation to the agency. Now, the final decision is now taken by MBMA within 270 days. So the decision could be either a rejection or an approval. So whatever be the case, it will be communicated to the applicant. But if it's a situation of approval, then a permit will be issued. Okay, you can go ahead with it. But remember that you need to, there are conditions. It's a conditional permit. And then after that, the decision is uploaded on the BCH. So the BCH is the Biosafety Clearinghouse. It's like an online portal where countries that are signatory to the Convention of Biological Diversity, post their decision concerning an event that they have given approval for in their various countries. Now, that is for GMOs that have been developed using recombinant DNA. We also have the regulatory process for genome editing. And for the genome editing, it's also on a case-by-case basis. However, as a regulatory body, we are interested in knowing if, number one, the transgene will be contained in the final product. If the transgene that is used for the modification is going to be contained in the final product, then it will fall under the category of a GMO and to be regulated as a GMO. However, be in the final product, then we will categorize that as a non-GM, and the applicant will be given a clearance to say that you can go ahead. This will not be categorized under a GMO. However, that does not stop the MBMA regulatory oversight function. And that is for genome editing applications. as an agency, when for the safety, yes, this may not fall under safety considerations, but then we're also big on socioeconomic consideration. And these include ethics, mandatory labeling, risk communication, where we engage the public through the publication of applications on the national dailies, town hall meetings, and what have you, stakeholders meetings and what have you. And as an agency, part of the activities we do in conducting the socio-economic consideration includes, putting out information on our social media handles, conducting press briefing, printing publications. We also have the agency's newsletter. We also have the agency site where you can get information concerning any application or concerning guidelines that we use or concerning any other regulatory instrument. Then we also have the annual National Biosafety Conference and agency's annual reports. And talking about conference, we have the International Biosafety Conference coming up by next month in Abuja, and I want to use this opportunity to indulge us to register and plan to attend, where germane issues will be discussed. In conclusion, we know that GMOs are known to have perceived benefits, but notwithstanding, there are and there is need for stringent regulatory frameworks to ensure that these concerns, this risk that these GMOs may pose, this potential risk that they may pose, are greatly minimized, and the benefits of the GMOs is maximized. And the government of Nigeria have actually put in place the NBMA. They put this organization in place to ensure that, to encourage our homegrown scientists to use this technology in a safe and in a responsible manner. But on our part, we'll continue to ensure that only GMOs that are as safe as their conventional counterparts are given approval for. Now, in the words of Dr. Yemisi Asagbra, the DG CEO, she will always say, just because it was safe yesterday does not make it safe. Remember that this technology is an evolving technology. If there is need for a license, there's need for a permit to be revoked because probably as an agency, we are not comfortable with a particular data, or we're not comfortable with an analyzed data concerning a particular application, it will be revoked. So please always trust the NBMA to always watch out for your safety. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Right. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Okay.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Oh my network is bad. Hello, Dr. Joshua. Can you hear me, sir? Hello, sir. Oh, good. Sir, I can't hear you, sir.
that is titled Deficiencies in the Risk Assessment of Genetically Engineered Cacao approved for cultivation in Nigeria. Can you hear me?
Sir, I can't hear you.
Oh.
Oh.
Just give me
I can play. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, sir.
Okay. Fine. I said that there is a paper that is
Sir,
titled.
please, can you repeat? Sir, please, can you repeat what you're telling?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, sir.
There is
Hello.
Sir, can you hear me? Oh, wow.
Okay, you already mentioned that.
Hmm?
So much, man.
can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay. Can please mute your mic. Are you muted? She would have- It's okay.
It's all back. Yeah, the chat. The chat.
Let's just chat.
Then we ask the question, then you answer.
Hello?
Hello, sir.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Very well, sir.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Very well, sir.
Okay, so since you're hearing me, there's this publication in a plant journal, and it is a review titled Deficiencies in the Risk Assessment of Genetically Engineered BT cowpea Approved for Cultivation in Nigeria, a Critical Review. It was authored by Christoph Then, Juliana Miyazaki, and Andres Boapanskus. So I don't know if you have read that. Please let us know if you've read that paper, if you've seen it, and then if your agency has any response was contained in that assessment. Thank you.
Okay, so sir, I have not come across that, but then I would like to know, is it the BT cowpea that was approved in Nigeria? Hello, sir.
Go on.
Okay, so I would like to know, is it the, I have not come across that, but then I would like to know, was it for the BT cowpea that was approved in Nigeria? Because Ghana have also commercialized the BT cowpea. So can you hear me? Hello. Oh. Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Anybody join?
Yes.
We have anybody?
Hey, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, can.
Hello, sir.
Go
Hello?
ahead.
Okay. So if I stand corrected, but the deficiency was with regards to environmental risk assessment. Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Now, in conducting environmental risk assessment, the studies can be divided into two. We could have short-term studies and long-term studies. And as an agency, we collect annual reports from the developers of a particular GMO. We have data for the period of time that this cowpea has been in the market. And so if a study is just conducted and the analysis is for a short-term, short duration, then don't you think that data needs to be collected over time to jump into conclusion as to whether a properly environmental risk assessment was conducted? These are the questions.
Sound very sure sounding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, can you hear me?
I'm not sure if the
Sir, can you hear me? Or do I type in my response to that? Dr. Joshua, can you hear me? The network is. Let me type.
Yeah. Hello?
Sir, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very well. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now clearly. And I got the question.
Excellent. This is a question Dr. Adeni Ogini was asking. There was a review.
Yes.
Nigeria was the first to launch commercial cowpea, BT cowpea.
Yes.
Nigeria was
correct.
the first.
That's correct.
And there was a special review in the document plan.
Yes.
So it's kind of disappointing to us that you say you have not read that review, because it's international review by we thought to give some response now. But now that you say you have not read it, we can't go any further. But this is the challenge. If I can chip in this.
Okay.
If I have read a review, and this is the point. I am a nuclear physicist, actually, by training.
Okay.
What we do, we try to go into the nucleus.
Okay.
And we know the challenges involved in taking particles to go to the nucleus of an atom. And that is a very, very trivial thing compared to what you are trying to do with the nucleus of the cell. It is very, very, there are a lot of uncertainties. It is not a precise, So there are a lot of other proteins that are formed depending on so many properties. And that is what is in that review. And it was very, very detailed. But since you have not read it, it's very difficult for us to discuss it.
So can I say something, sir, in response to your comment?
Okay.
Yes. So first of all, I'd like to reiterate the fact that we're a regulatory body. We are not developers. We don't modify.
Can you say that you are not what?
We're a regulatory body. We are not product developers.
Yes, excuse me if I may say something. That is the complaint we have here. Because you said in your presentation that it is the developers that does the testing and all that. We think that ought not to be, because obviously it's what they submit to you. If you read that review, they were very, very critical. They found it very shoddy. They said they were shocked that kind of review could pass. That was in that review. I recommend that you check it, please.
Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that, sir. However, I need to still reiterate the fact that we are a regulatory body. We are not product developers. And when the risk assessment data is submitted to us, there are different components that we look at, some of which I have listed during my presentation. If the claim is that it is not holistic, one thing the agency does is to collect annual reports from developers every year. And if there is a need for the agency to reanalyze the data submitted, we do that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I must say that we
Yes.
appreciate your presentation and the time you and the agency has given. We really appreciate. I want to thank you. But may I just ask this personal question?
Yes, sir, go ahead, sir.
You listed several concerns.
Yes.
And they are concerning to us, so we are glad that you saw those concerns. On the market, it's everywhere. So what are you doing about labeling?
Okay, sir, thank you very much for that. We have the act stipulates that for products that will be commercialized, especially the ones that will be going to the shelves of the stores, it needs to be labeled. I can tell you that the telemase, the BT cowpea is labeled.
Is it labeled?
Yes, sir, it is labeled.
So if I eat mama or akara, I can distinguish that it is from.
Okay, so
yeah.
There are, when it comes to the commercialization of GMOs, it is not just only on the table of the NBMA. There's what we call the National Varietal Release. It's a committee under the Seed Council, which the NBMA is also a part of. Now, after the NBMA must have done its part, that GMO have to go to that committee. And so, after that GMO must have passed through that committee, the developers of that GMO have retailers that they sell, that they give these GMOs to, that sell it to farmers that want to cultivate. And we ensure that the developers do what we call stewardship. And that entails labeling. You must label. However, the agency is also conducting national surveillance, because, to be very honest, we are also aware of the fact that in as much as we know that our border agencies are trying their possible best, we're also conducting surveillance to ensure that we do not have products containing these GMO ingredients within the country. And that's why we conduct that national surveillance, to ensure that if we pick up any product on the shelf and it tastes positive for GM, we carry out the legal, we carry out any legal action against the importer, against the developer, or against the of that product. So I can say it is not easy, but we are trying our best with respect.
Thank you very much. That's one thing you kept repeating, and we cannot controvert that. You are trying your best. During your presentation, you said, according to the funding that's available to you, we appreciate these things. And we want to thank you, but we thought we could help your agency if you make these cases for more regulation, more funding, and whatever. Once again, we have other speakers that we are waiting online. We very much appreciate your time. Please pay our regards to the DG. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And I want to we are also open to collaborations, research collaborations, and what have you. I will extend my greetings, your greetings to her. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So once again, let's appreciate our presenter. Thank you so much, madam. So the lecture that just got delivered should have been in the morning. So by now, I think we are supposed to start our plenary session 2, and I don't know, maybe yeah. Please let the one that will be okay.
Chairman.
For the chairman, sorry, and Miss Elizabeth.
Sorry. Please can you help us find out?
I will answer that to you. So I don't know if we have the first speaker. Elijah. Is it there?
Dr. Aga, no, it's not online. It's not, Aga is not online.
Shama, you appreciate.
MRS.
Miss Elizabeth, please, come over here. Because we are starting this plenary session 2. We have Mr. Who do we have online?
Adiola. Sir, will she speak? The Lagos lady. Is she ready? Oh, so nobody's speaking now. Okay. I do is not online.
Restart the system.
HIM. Do you want to present now?
Please.
Yes, that's it. No.
Yeah, because we are having issues with some technical. So